thank you for coming. Now, a couple things to tell before we get going. I want you to turn off those cell phones. You know about those things. You could put it on mute or maybe just kind of turn it off. They do go off when you don't want them to go off. Now, let me tell you a little bit. We're going to welcome Carrie Sue Ayvar to the Armstrong Wing, which is an honor for us because she is a wonderful storyteller and she's a children's entertainer also. So she's doing some portrayal today. So she's very skilled and she's very talented. So let me say just a couple things here to introduce her. Pablo Picasso, you know him. Well, he once said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the meaning of and the purpose of life is to give it away." The purpose of life is to give it away. That's very, very important because we don't do that very often, and you have to share things. Carrie Sue feels that her gift is to entertain, educate, and perpetuate the oral tradition of storytelling, connecting people and their cultures through stories in Spanish and English. She believes that by becoming aware of one another's stories, people learn to more easily accept one another. As her Grandpa Nat, a Talmudic scholar, taught her, it is hard to hate someone whose story you know. Yes, and during any one of her performances or engagements, she strives to keep in mind some of her basic truths. That includes, if you want to write these down, okay, 1, open minds and hearts connect people. Number 2, joy is good for the soul. Number 3, a life open to learning is a life worth living. Service is an expression of love. To know a people's language and culture is to know the people. Small things done with great love make the world better. So have the courage to take chances and do what is right and even fail. Have the courage to get up and try again. Yeah, very good, very good. So we want to thank the Friends of the Martin County Library System for putting on this program. And if you, good. And you know, if you haven't joined, if you haven't become a friend, shame on you. We have to get these programs in here, and they do them. They sell books, and also they do other things to put these programs on. We have surveys in the back there. So after the show is over, go back there and just say how much you like it. So, okay, are we ready? Carrie, it's all yours, Carrie Sue.
I'm afraid Carrie Sue couldn't come, but that's okay. I came in her stead. My name is Rose Weiss. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about that. First of all, I want to thank the Friends of the Library, and thank you all for inviting me here today to talk about my life, to reminisce a little bit. It's been a long life, a good life. Well, I have to tell you, it's such a long life, I even brought a few notes. I shouldn't forget anything too important. The memory, it's not what it used to be. That's another story. Well, okay, I should start, I guess, by introducing myself. My name is Rose Weiss. Formerly, Rivka Sayeda is how I was born, but my aunt, when we came to this country, she said, no, you need to Americanize it. So ever since then, I've been Rose Weiss now, formerly Rose Sayeda. It's been a good life, a long life. You know, I have to tell you, a lot of people knew me simply as Mrs. Weiss. Mother Weiss, I was known on Miami Beach. A little exaggeration, that. But in a sense, it was so. It was so. It's good to see you, by the way. It's good to see friends. I have to tell you, in a sense, it was so. I am a mother in the Jewish tradition. You know what I'm talking about. Any tradition, you know what I'm saying. A mother doesn't say, oh, excuse me, I'm off duty now, right? I'm sorry, that's not in my job description. No, of course not. Mothers, right? We see something needs doing, we do. And we take care of everyone. We are strong, nurturing, caring, right? We take care of everyone in the family. Yeah, I see people you know exactly what I'm saying. And you see Miami Beach became like my own family. It did. I watched it grow from its infancy, from a small, enchanting, simple little island, unspoiled, into the internationally known glittering tourist mecca that it is today. It's true. Excuse me. No, sit, I'm fine. Sit, one moment. It's just a touch of the asthma. Sit, I'm fine. It's good. Not so bad like it used to be. Up north in New York. As a matter of fact, that's the reason I came to Florida in the first place. They said it would be better for my health than maybe the change of the climate. I have to tell you, the asthma had gotten so bad when I was in New York. Imagine that. We had already gone through the pandemic. Some of you remember the pandemic. Remember all those masks that we had to wear? Yeah. I had survived the Spanish flu epidemic, and now they were worried I wasn't going to be able to survive this terrible asthma. It was getting worse and worse. Oh, I wish it was as simple as wearing masks, though God forbid we should ever go through another pandemic like that. After uprooting our lives and everything like that, now I was suffering from the asthma, and it was getting worse and worse. I have to tell you, I've never been one who was used to sitting and not doing. But it's hard to be active when you can't even breathe, believe you me. And I was not used to that, especially with a husband and 3 young children. I was only in my 30s. The asthma had gotten so bad, the doctors weren't sure I was even going to survive. At one point, I remember we actually moved from Brooklyn, near all of my family, up to the Bronx. It being higher up, they thought it might be better for my health. You laugh. It felt to me like I was being exiled to Siberia. But you know when you're sick, right? You'll try anything. Well, it helped for a little bit, but not long enough. And finally, the doctor said to me, they said, Rosie, what you need to do is you need to go and travel. Get on a ship or something, go to California or Arizona or Florida or something, and find a place. And when you found a place where you felt better, where you could breathe, there you should stick. Well, we were talking, and there was a salesman at Berman and Frank, the clothing manufacturer where my husband worked, and he said, Mr. Rosen, he said that his mother, she had just spent the whole winter, she also suffered from the asthma, that she had spent the winter down in a new place called Miami Beach, and that she felt so much better. So we wrote to her, Mrs. Rosen, a lovely woman, and we made arrangements that I agreed that I would go and spend the winter there. In fact, I was just asking about how to find out how to enroll the children in school and such when the doctor said, oh, no, I'm sorry, you can't bring the children with you. Excuse me, leave my children? They said, no, you're too ill, you're too, could be far away from everybody, it's too much, you can't do it. Well, it had never even occurred to me that I would have to leave my children. Imagine. But I want you to know, after much discussion, I did compromise. I did. We agreed that the 2 older children, Malvina and Milton, already enrolled in school, they would stay with my husband and move in with my parents. Then at least I know they would all be taken care of. While the baby, Gene, he was almost 2, would come down to Miami Beach with me. And it was such a trip. I remember getting on the boat. You had to go from New York, and it took 4 days by ship to go to Jacksonville. And from Jacksonville, we had to take the train all the way down to Miami. Gene was wonderful. Oh, they loved him. He's an adorable child. It's hard not to. On the ship, he was very good. But when we got to Jacksonville, I guess he had finally had enough, and he would not stop crying. Now, we had like a 4-hour wait before we could get the train down to Miami. I remember I gave him a lollipop. I tried everything that he would not stop sobbing. He was just overtired. And there was a man there at the baggage, and he suggested we should go take the bus right there at the corner. Plenty of time to do it and go see, there's a little pond, and go feed the duckies. I have to tell you, it worked. All he wanted to go feed duckies, feed duckies. He was happy after that. We got on the train, and luckily he fell right to sleep on my lap, and I think I did the same. Finally, we came all the way from Jacksonville down to Miami, and then from Miami, we would still have to get over to Miami Beach. Now, while we got there, Mrs. Rosen, the one I was just speaking about, she had made arrangements at Brown's Hotel that I could rent a room and a little kitchenette, and Mrs. Isidore Cohen, some of you might know Ida Cohen. She was one of the very first Jews. She and her husband, Isidore, were one of the first Jewish families in Miami. That's right. And they greeted me. In fact, I remember Ida, she gave me a little jar of jam. It was a lovely greeting. And then from there, we had to take the bus over the new wooden causeway, right where the Venetian Causeway is today, and take it all the way to Miami Beach. And we hadn't gotten very far when the bus broke down. It had a flat tire. Not exactly an auspicious beginning, I grant you. But I will tell you, well, we got off and we're waiting for the tire to be changed. I breathed that warm, salt sea air, and I felt like I could breathe again. From the moment my feet touched Florida soil, I felt better. Oh. Well, at last we got over to, let's see if I can see this picture. Oh, there, Brown's Hotel. You see, it's that little 2-story frame building there right on the beach at First and Ocean. And I have to be honest, by that time, all I wanted to do was a little washing up, I have a little something to eat and go to sleep. But Jean had been promised this whole time that when we got to Florida, when we got to Miami Beach, he would see the fishes. Oh, the fishes. All he wanted to do was to see the fishes. He could hardly keep his eyes open, but he still wanted to see the fishes. Well, we had a little snack. And what we did is I walked across the street. We sat on a little bench right there on the ocean. And it was just at twilight. And we watched as the sun was setting and watched the light sprinkling there on the beautiful blue waves. And I told him, Gene, you see there, all the fishes are going to sleep. And it's time for you to go to sleep tomorrow. Tomorrow, when you're awake and they're awake, we'll come back and see the fishes. And it was good enough. He was happy with that then. It seemed to presage a lifelong fascination with fishes and fishing for the rest of his life. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. If he had any free moment, he would be fishing. In fact, later on, he even did a thing. He taught many, many more children how to fish. But I'm getting ahead of myself, I know. Well, I have to tell you, as we got down there, it didn't take us long. As maybe you can tell, I'm a friendly sort. And as I said, nobody could resist Gene. Oh, everybody fell in love with him. It didn't take us long to meet many people with whom it seemed I was destined to enjoy a long association in the upbuilding of Miami Beach. It's true. Well, one of them, for example, was Chief Stevenson, the fire chief. He saw little Gene, he took right to him, he let him wear one of the fire hats, and even let him climb up on the fire engine, ring the bell, ding, ding, ding. Oh, he was happy. Well, I was talking to him, and then to the Chief Hardy, and the police chief as well, the sheriff, and when I was talking to Chief Stevenson, he went and started introducing me around, to the city clerk and some of the city council members. As a matter of fact, they were about to start a city council meeting, and one of the members asked if I would like to sit in on it. And I said I would, so I did. For 38 years, I sat in on city council meetings. Somebody had to keep an eye on things. It's true. Actually, one of my other nicknames besides Mother Weiss was they would call me the Eighth Councilman. We only had 7 elected, but there was me. Somebody had to keep an eye on things. Well, I remember when I got back to Brown's Hotel, they couldn't get over that. They said, Rosie, you just got here, and already it seems like you know everybody in the city. Well, I don't know about that, but I did get to know people. I got to know them. They got to know me. It was before long, I got to know so many of the people, including, like, for example, Mrs. Pancoast. That was the mayor's wife, Mayor Pancoast. She was the daughter of John Collins. Some of you know him. He was the one the avenue was named after. That's him. Anyways, his daughter, Mrs. Pancoast. I was talking to her one day, and she said there were a few of the other ladies were organizing a little clothing drive for a orphanage up in Jacksonville. Well, I said that I would like to be able to help too. I could make a couple of dresses. After all, I had worked at Berman and Frank, the clothing manufacturer. That's where I had met my husband. And I would like to make a couple of dresses. I offered to drop them off and everything. She said, no, she would come and pick them up. Well, when she came to pick them up, she couldn't get over them. You see, I had embroidered a little bit around the collar and around the hem. You know what I'm talking. You feel prettier on the outside. You feel prettier on the inside. And this was for the orphans. Every little bit would help. Don't you think? That was very important to me. And I couldn't get over it. I think she told everybody between here and Jacksonville just how lovely these things were. It's funny. Actually, over the years, I did quite a bit to help out that orphanage, over the years. Actually, one time, this is many years later, I was at home, and I hear somebody at the front door. I go to open the front door, and you're not going to believe. You see, a group of the children from that orphanage had come down for a choral, a children's choir, a choral concert there in Miami Beach, and they decided they would come and serenade me first as a surprise. Can you imagine? Such things. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. As you can see, I was writing home about the almost miraculous improvement in my health. In fact, I remember writing and suggesting that maybe my father could come down. I thought it would be good for him as well. The months and weeks just flew by. Finally, by early June, it was time for me to return home. And I could not wait, I have to tell you. And the children, how they had grown. You know how it is. Malvina and Milton, they got so tall. But as happens so often, even in the midst of great joy, I was so happy to be with my family again. There's often great sorrow as well. You see, when I got home, I discovered that my father had passed away the previous January. And they had been afraid to write and tell me for what it would do in my condition and my health, so far away and all alone. My tears knew no stop. They knew no, my papa. I'm sorry, even this moment, I couldn't believe I would never see him again. I'd been writing to him all those months, I had no idea. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Anyways, in a few weeks, it soon again became apparent that the climate was playing havoc with my health. And now we were going to have to make a serious decision. We would have to decide whether we were going to uproot everything. And amongst leaving my family so far away, it would also mean my husband Abe would have to leave his job of over 20 years with Berman and Frank, the very place that we had met. But after much discussion, that's exactly what we decided to do. Now, of course, I will mention that I did wait long enough for my sister Bessie, my youngest sister Bessie, to have her first child. That kind of muzzle I wasn't going to miss. And then my sister Sadie, though newly married, she came down anyways to Miami Beach, to Florida with me, to help me with the 3 children. And my husband Abe would come as soon as it was possible. Well, I have to tell you, when we got back, it seemed even more to me like a perfect tropical isle. You have to understand, there wasn't much here. This is 1920, 21 now. And when we got back, there was no movies, no markets. Shopping had to be done over in Miami. But of course, there was also no traffic. Not many people. Much of the time was spent right there on the beach, in conversation and long walks, shell hunting, even eating many a meal. Ooh, and the bonfires that we would have, and the Wienerwurst with the marshmallows, it was wonderful. It seemed to be, to me, a perfect place for building, raising children and raising a family and building a community. And before long, I had the children enrolled in school. And I was raising funds for it. This is the way. You have to understand, even the first year when we had first come down, the year before at Brown's Hotel, as I said, met a lot of people in the city. I remember that very first year, before the other children, I just had little Jean with me at that time. I remember some of the women there at Brown's Hotel were raising funds for the Salvation Army. Well, I thought a very worthwhile cause. They were selling donuts on a little table outside for 10 or 15 cents a piece. I don't remember exactly. So I thought I could help. And what did I do? I borrowed a basket, and I filled it up with donuts, and I made a little banner, and I took Gino, and the two of us went to where the ferry came in over from Miami. And as people came off the ferry, up would toddle little Gene with his little banner, asking the people to donate for the Salvation Army. Yeah. People gave him 50 cents, $1. One man even gave him $5 and let him eat the donuts too. Before you knew it, we had raised over $30, more than everybody else put together the whole week. Thus began my new career as chairwoman of almost every charity drive on Miami Beach for many years to come. So when we came back the next year, it just seemed natural. If the children were in school, I was going to be raising funds for it. I remember one day, I went to the school. There was a little boy, such a punum, such a face. Little blonde hair. It was so long, it was almost as long as a little girl's. And I could see from his slipper, his toe was already peeking out. Such a sad face. Tears were coming. I asked him what the matter was. And I said, what's the problem? And he said to me that he had lost his lunch money. But I knew. I'm a mother. I knew I could see. He hadn't lost his lunch money. He didn't have the 10 cents to begin with. The boy was hungry. Well, I went in and I made arrangements from then on. I once spoke to the principal and some of the other people, and we made arrangements from then on he should get free lunches. But I also made sure he had chores to do. He shouldn't feel like he was getting charity. I mean, everybody, children and adults, we all need to be treated with dignity and respect, right? I remember, too, I spoke with the principal. I said I'd like to go and explain to his parents what we were doing. And on the way home, it shouldn't be a total loss. I got him a little washing up and a haircut, some new clothes, new shoes. By the time we got to his house, his mother opened the door. I thought she was going to faint. I don't think she even recognized her own son. And then she started to cry. I heard her story. You know, as they said, it's hard to hate someone whose story you know. It's true. She said she and her husband had been looking for work unsuccessfully for, I can't begin to tell you for how long, I don't know. And they were going hungry. They had looked everywhere. Well, I said I knew a few people. I would ask around. As a matter of fact, I found her husband a job with the city. He worked there for many years. He did. And for her, I found her a job in one of the linen rooms at one of the local hotels. You know, it's funny. After a while, people said, I got a reputation. People said, you have troubles. Go to Mother Weiss. Go to Mother Weiss. Go to Mrs. Weiss. She'll find a way. At one point, Claude Renshaw, the city manager, was so worried that so many people were coming around me that I was going to be mobbed. They actually called out the police to protect me. That's how I started and I founded the welfare department of Miami Beach. And I ran it until we found funding to hire somebody else. It's true. You have to understand, at this time, there wasn't much there. I'm a founder of almost every organization that we have on Miami Beach. Somebody had to start things. For me, it began in 1921 with the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. You see, now that we were down in Miami Beach, we had to figure out a new way of making a living, and we decided to go into real estate. And they were building a 15-unit apartment building. We decided to call it the Royal Apartments. So we're on 2nd and Ocean Drive. And even while I was busy furnishing it and financing it, we would make one apartment available, and as soon as I furnished that and got that rented, then we'd have money to furnish the next one. It's funny, at one point, though, we were having trouble getting things. I didn't even have a stove, and I had no more money. And I went over to the bank to see if I could borrow something. And I spoke with the president of the bank. And I guess I wasn't good enough to get a loan from the bank, but I'll never forget. He reached into his own pocket, this is the truth, and he pulled out cash. He pulled out $50. He says, is that enough? Do you need more? I said, you don't even know me. How are you going to be giving me money? He said, I can tell. I can trust you. And he did. And that was the beginning of another friendship. Well, okay. As I said, for me, it all started in 1921. We decided if the city was going to build, we needed to start a chamber of commerce. And we went over to Smith's Casino. I think, do I have? Oh, there we go. That was what it looked like, America's Winter Playground. This was there just in 1920 and 21. And had high hopes for it. There we go. We went over to another casino. A casino, it was a bathing place like this, with the swimming pool and everything. We went over there was Hardy's Casino. We went over to Smith's, and we got a few of us together for the very first Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. It was a good thing I was there. I was the only woman present. And of course, we decided that the first thing we needed to do was to recruit new members. And boy, did I recruit. By the next meeting, I had recruited over 60 new members. It's true. They thought I had a secret recipe or something like that. No, it's just if you believe in something, then it's easy to sell. That's it. You know, you live in a community, you become a part of it. And when I get involved, you know, it was, no place was booming more than here. It was boom time. After the pandemic, you know what it's like. Remember those days. That's what they call it, the Roaring '20s, for a reason. Every place was booming, and no place more so than here in Florida. And in large part because of people like Carl Fisher. Carl Fisher, he really built Miami Beach. He once said, though, that he built Miami Beach with his money, and while I built it with my spirit. I don't know about that, but he was good. In fact, Carl Fisher, he took a real liking to me. He's the only one that ever gave me free tickets to anything on Miami Beach. It's true. He gave me a season's pass to the polo fields. Well, as I said, when he knew about building and getting, he was good at publicity. Matter of fact, let me see if I think I still have. Live where the ocean breezes blow. Miami Beach is calling you, and everybody was coming down. And the Binder boys were busy buying land and selling land. They didn't even see where the land was before they sold it. Everybody was trying to get a better price on it. And you can see there wasn't much here. We would walk on the beach. This is how empty it looked on Miami Beach, but we would eat and have conversations. It was a lovely time. And there I built the Royal Apartments. There you see me in front. And there it is. There we are, 4 generations. My husband, my mama, and one of the babies. Oh, well, okay. While we were there, Carl Fisher, he was quite a good promoter. He got hold of an elephant. Do you remember Rosie the elephant? Some of you might remember. I know. He got an elephant called Carl Jr., and then Rosie, I heard all those stories, whether about it was named after me, that I don't know. All I can tell you is it worked. It was supposed to be Rosie the elephant. You saw it as a caddy for the golf course, but it was really supposed to be hauling trees for the new causeway. I have to tell you, I never saw that elephant do a lick of work. I think it had an eye out for a Hollywood contract, to be honest. But it worked. People all over the country were hearing about Rosie the elephant on our beautiful Miami Beach. It did. In fact, there was a time somebody once wondered up in New York, who was better known on Miami Beach, me or the elephant? Such nonsense. They even had a little contest. They wrote a postcard just addressed to Rosie, Miami Beach. Such craziness. All I can tell you is I got the postcard. That's me. And Foxy Grandpa was also there that day. You see, he was a well-known cartoonist. Pete Chase, who worked with Carl Fisher, he wanted, when we were out there with Foxy Grandpa, he wanted to get me up on the elephant. He wanted Carl Fisher to get on the elephant and me to get up there with him. All I remember is saying, no, 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 as I was being lifted up. Yes, yes, yes. And it made every newspaper, I think, across the country. Rosie and Rosie, they called it. Well, you know, when you live in a community, you become involved in it. When I get involved, what can I tell you? I get involved, whether it is being on the beautification committee and planting trees for the causeway, or going to businesses and raising funds for a town library, very important thing to do, or a public hospital, or even a public golf course open to everybody. I get involved. This is what happens. All of Florida was booming, and no place more so than all of us. I've always believed, I really have, I've always believed that it's important to build not only fiscally, but morally for the community. And so, among other things, I made that the public golf course open to everyone, and I think the one that took me more work than almost anything else was building a children's playground. It was hard to get the funding, and after much delay and procrastination, I think it took us over a year. You see, the children, they didn't vote, so some of them weren't interested. But after almost a year, we finally got a new children's playground right there on 2nd and Ocean Drive. It's still there to this very day, between Collins and Washington, I should say, right on 2nd there. Well, Amongst other things I did, I remember I even started the first public Halloween party. We had started one at the school, and when people came, I knew when things were going through good times and not such good times. We started at the school. I got a few women together, and we started packing and collecting for baskets, holiday food for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, Jewish, Gentile, white, Negro, it doesn't matter. People are people, am I right? Right. And so, as more people came, there was more need. We collected more. We distributed more. Amongst other things, I remember one time we decided to do a community Christmas tree. And when I showed up, we did it on a live tree because where were we going to find a tree big enough? And so when I got there, I found I was the only one that showed up. When the men showed up, I'm throwing up tinsel and the decorations. Me, a Jewish woman, what do I know from decorating a Christmas tree? When they asked me, I said, well, where's your women, your wives? They were supposed to be here. But don't worry, our women have it done. It looked lovely enough. I'm happy to say those are still annual events to this very day. It's a very good thing. But what goes up must come down. And for us, it started a little earlier than the rest of the country. The country was still booming when September. That's right, Yom Kippur, it was September 1926. So what did we know from hurricanes? Hurricanes. Who knew? It had started to rain a little bit that day. I remember we didn't even have a permanent shul, a synagogue yet, and we were borrowing a rooftop where they were all meeting, and we were going to send, as it started to rain a little bit, I remember we were going to send my daughter Malvina with the umbrella so that my husband wouldn't get wet on the way home. Not that it did any good. Before long, the wind started to blow. It blew inside out. They all came home safely. I'm happy to say every man on that rooftop made it home that night, but completely soaking wet. We had no idea. Hurricane, such wind, such rain, such noise. And in the morning, such devastation. You can see this is what it looked like. Whole walls were taken out. This is in the storm of it. This is what it looked like the day after. And unfortunately, so many deaths, I can't even begin to tell you. I wasn't the only one that didn't know from hurricanes. So many, when the wind had finally died down, people went out to see what was going on. Who knew from a wall that there was going to be the worst side coming to hit us yet? And that's when so many were caught up in it. Oh, the devastation. All of Miami Beach was underwater. We had sand. We were raising things up on sailing. We had a new baby in the apartment building. A young couple had just brought their premature baby home from the hospital that very day. Another gentleman in our apartment had just buried their own daughter. They were sitting Shiva. Another man, he didn't want to leave his room because his only daughter had eloped with one of the binder boys. Oh. And he wouldn't even come out until finally, when we stopped hearing from him, we broke down the door, came in, we saw the whole window frame all around him. Then he was able to come out, he said. Up on the top floor, we had an elderly couple up on the very top of our royal apartments. We had she was deaf, and he was blind, and we tried to get them out, but the wind was pounding so much they couldn't hear anything. The roof was being lifted off. Finally, the only way to get them, and then when we tried to open the door, it was stuck. We couldn't get them out. Finally, there was a little, we had like a little garbage thing that you would put it underneath the sink and that would be taken out. Jean, who was my youngest, was able to squeeze in there and with the screwdriver get the door off the hinges to help that couple out. Everybody was okay. We all gathered down on top of tables and things, trying to stay warm. The wind was howling. And in the morning, as I said, complete devastation. But there were no time for tears. I remember I went in, I saw Carl Fisher and Pete Chase. Their heads were down. They were like in shock, didn't know what to do. I said, this is not the time for tears. There are things that needed doing. My house became the Red Cross station, the Royal Apartments. I made arrangements that the plane should fly overhead and drop canisters of milk, these big canisters of milk. And this I took around to every child on the island. I knew where everybody lived. I mean, hurricane or no, children need milk, right? And so that's what I did. So we started the bust a little earlier than the rest of the country. For most of them, they waited till 1929. We started in 1926. But you know, I think of Florida as the land of the big B's. I do, the 3 B's: big booms, big busts, and big blows. But you do what needs to be doing. I've always been very fortunate. Even when I have made money, I've lost money, but I know that I've been very lucky. I got a new start in this country. I got a new start here in Florida. Lost everything and started all over again, including the Royal Apartments. In fact, later on, we lost them and we bought another smaller apartment, the Pelican Cove's only 7 apartments. But I've felt I've always been very lucky. For example, let me give you an example. How lucky I know that I have been. 1933, President Roosevelt had just been elected. And I don't know if some of you might remember, before he took office in March, you know, the inauguration in March, for a little rest in February. And I was very honored to be invited to sit on the platform with all the dignitaries, the president-elect and Carl Fisher and the mayor of Chicago, this very nice young man, Anton Chermak, and all the other dignitaries. I was very active in the Democratic committee down here and the Democratic Party. And so I was honored to sit there. Now, I have to tell you, it had been such a crazy day. This is mid-February, and I had been running around all morning. I hadn't had a chance to get a bite to eat. So I said to Pete Chase, I said, just save my seat. I'll be right back. I went to get a little hot dog. Of course, while I was up, Mr. Chermak, the mayor of Chicago, he went over, he sat in my seat. He was talking to somebody else there. I said, no, that's okay. He can sit there. It's not a problem. Now, some of you might remember, that was the day, yes. That crazy man, a crazy Italian immigrant, Giuseppe Zangara, he tried to assassinate President Roosevelt. Luckily for us, he missed, but unfortunately, he hit that very nice young mayor. I remember on the way to the hospital, he said to President Roosevelt, he said, I'm glad it hit me, sir, not you. Unfortunately, he died a few days later. I tell you, I was very lucky. Pete Chase said to me, do you realize, Rosie, your life was probably saved because you went to get a bite of a hot dog? A very lucky woman, I know, you know. Well, oftentimes, I've been asked to speak for organizations. It started right after the hurricane. I remember right afterwards, I had talked to a gentleman. It was a shopkeeper. That summer, that August, he was already ready to go home. There wasn't very many people down and tourists. I said, don't worry, the season's going to be starting. Who knew a few weeks later the hurricane was going to hit? Right after the hurricane, I watched him. I walked right by him. I went by his shop, and he said, see, Rosie, I told you, we should have given it back to the Indians. And I said to him, no, this is when we need it. This is not when we give up. This is not when we leave. This is when we need to rebuild. We don't give up so easily. This is like when you have a sick child. We don't say, oh, I'm sorry, you're sick. No, this is when we need to pull together. Well, I have to tell you, somebody overheard me. Before you knew it, they had asked me to speak at the Chamber of Commerce meeting right afterwards. I've often been asked to speak for many of the different organizations that I've been a part of. Somebody once said that I could sell straw hats to the Eskimos. I don't know so much about that. But you have to understand, if I believe in something, then it's easy for me to speak. I just speak from my heart about things that I care about. Service is a form of love. I truly do believe that. It is. You know, whenever somebody tells me something can't be done, I tell them, don't confuse me with the facts. If you don't try, you'll never know. Even as a child, my mother said I was always what they might call inventive. I remember back as a little girl in Mizrach, Russia, my mother would laugh about my toys. toys. What toys? We had no toys. But I was never one to fuss. But I remember there was a little girl somehow that she had gotten a real rubber ball, real red rubber ball, all the way from Warsaw. I wanted one so badly, but I was never one to fuss or complain about it. So what did I do? I remember I went to my mother's kitchen, I took a potato, and that became my ball. It didn't bounce too well, but I could toss it, and I was happy. But then when my mother's brother brought me a real rubber ball all the way from Warsaw, then I think my joy was complete. So I have always been one of those that look for new answers, different ways of doing things. I have to tell you, during World War, I wanted to show that too. After this, during World War II, things changed too. The army came down, such a thing. Who could have imagined we'd have another world war? But then again, who could have imagined Hitler, my God? I would have enlisted if I could have. That I couldn't do, but I could sell war bonds. So you see, our beaches were now full with the army soldiers. I have to tell you, I did everything that I could for them, and including selling war bonds. Over $5 million worth of war bonds I sold. More than any other woman in Florida. That's right, I did. And you have to understand, there were so many, 20% of all Army officers came through Miami Beach. 25% of all enlisted men came down here. Our beaches were full. Our hotels were full. Maybe not with tourists anymore, but certainly with the Army. In fact, by now I told you I had lost the Royal Apartments, but we had bought the Palm Cove, a little 7-unit apartment building. And I'm sorry to say, with all of these soldiers there, especially for those that came down with their families, for many of them it was very hard to find affordable housing. Yeah, I'm ashamed to say that many of the businessmen raised their prices instead of lowered it. Well, I heard about that, and I thought it was a terrible shame. So I made a big sign in front of our apartments, and I said, renting only to soldiers and their families. Mm-hmm. In fact, at one point we had 17 children living in the house. People thought I was crazy. They were sure the children, they would ruin it, that it would be dead. I have to tell you, I sat all those children down in the courtyard one day, and I explained to them that we're in this together, and I never had a problem. Not a problem with any one of them. That's exactly right. Oh, and while we were there were so many, Mrs. Pancos and myself and a few other women. We got together, we made the $1 Million Pier. Some of you might remember about the $1 Million Pier, because while they were on leave there, we had all kinds of entertainment and lectures and classes and things for them to do. The $1 Million Pier, we were part of that one as well. Well, now, while I never actually held office, as I said, it didn't mean I didn't speak my mind. Miami Beach, especially after the war years. So many of those soldiers who had been stationed down here, they remembered, right? And they knew they wanted to come back. And they did. It started to boom all over again. Our Miami Beach became known all over the place. And as I said, well, I never actually ran for office. It didn't mean I didn't speak my mind. Everybody who knows me knows I have very definite opinions, and I have no problem letting them be known. I do. Somebody has to keep an eye on things. I remember one time, just not too long ago, I'm still speaking my mind. I went with my daughter-in-law, Ruth, that's Jean's wife, and to the doctor. I remember one time my own doctor wasn't there. I'm living now at the Jewish Home and Hospital at Douglas Gardens. I know, much to the consternation of my children. Each one of them wants me to live with them. But if it was good enough for me to build, it's good enough for me to live there, I think. But I went to the doctor with Ruth one day, not long ago. And my regular doctor wasn't there. So I started this new young doctor. I started to tell him about some of the problems I was having. And he didn't even bother to listen. He stops me. And he starts to give me a lecture. He started to lecture me, well, at your age, if you want to be as active as you are, you have to expect all these aches and pains. I let him talk. I did. I waited until he was done, and then I stood up and I said, Doctor, I hope you're not expecting a payment. I came here to see a doctor, not to get a lecture. If I wanted a lecture, I could have gone to the University of Miami. They have much better lecturers, and I didn't pay. I didn't. Even my enemies loved me. I have to tell you, I did. there was one time, now some of you might know, that I did not allow, I told you I have very definite opinions, allow organized gambling on Miami Beach. They have been trying for so long, but I knew exactly who it would hurt and who was going to be there. And so I kicked them all out. I did. I made sure it did not happen. You know, you have a mouth, you shouldn't use it. But I remember just in 1960, when Fidel Castro took over Cuba, remember, this is early on, we didn't even quite know what was going on yet. And for you that may not know it, we are sister cities with Havana. The Chamber of Commerce of Havana and Miami Beach, we are sister cities. So they sent me over to Cuba. I had been gone there once before, had a lovely time, had won a contest there early on. And when I went over, I went with my daughter-in-law, Ruth, and as we came up to the hotel, just to check out who this Fidel Castro was, what was going to be going on, as I walk up, I see one of the gangsters that I had kicked out of Miami Beach. He's at the hotel. He took one look at me, he went, "Rosie, good to see you. You're not going to kick us out of here too, are you?" And I said, no, as long as you stay here, don't come to my Miami Beach. But I remember, Ruth has never forgotten. We went down, he took us downstairs into the basement. And he took out a little suitcase, a little briefcase. When he opened it up, it was filled with cash. Bills and bills, American dollars, mind you. And he said, "Rosie, this is for you. All I want is one picture, just one picture with you at a slot machine. That's all I want." My daughter-in-law's going, she'd never seen so much money. I've never seen so much money in my life either. I remember she's going, Rosie, look at it, take it." But of course I wouldn't, because I knew exactly what he wanted to do with that picture. I didn't take it. No, I wasn't even tempted to. I knew what the right thing. You have to follow what's in your heart. I knew it would hurt more people if I did. Well, I have to tell you, many honors, I'm happy to say, have come my way. I was looking at them. I can't remember so many of them. I know it was like the Oscars for my PTA work. I don't think they even do the Taxpayer Service Award. What was Who's Who? That in American Jewelry. That made me quite proud. And the Golden Deed Book for the Exchange Club. Outstanding member. I can't of so many I don't even know. I even was given. Let's see. I have it here. I was even given the key to the city. That's right. Mayor Dermott gave me the key to the city. You can look at it after right here. That's all that it is. Everybody thinks it's a big key. That's all it is, like to one of the hotel rooms. But I'm quite proud of that. You have to understand, I didn't exactly plan on being a pioneer in anything. I didn't know that I was going to found all these things that are still going on to this very day. I just did what I felt needed doing. You see, I do believe you become part of a community. You really become part of it like family. And believe you me, there's nothing more important than family. I've been very blessed, very lucky. A wonderful husband, Abe. 3 truly remarkable children. Malvina, who became a teacher, a principal, and then, the head of the Department of Education there in Dade schools. And Milton, he not only became an attorney and ran a bank, he has been involved he was on the school board and even chairman of the school board as well. And involved in so many community efforts. And then the baby Gene, he became a doctor. That's right, I have a lawyer and a doctor. He became a podiatrist and still giving so much back to the community. He has run different charities and things, including teaching and giving out fishing rods. I told you he still loved fishing all of his life. To more children than I can begin to count. I am so proud of them. They are making real differences in the community. But anyways, you asked me about me. You asked me, so I told you. I even took a few notes. I hope I remembered all these important things. It's been a long life, a full life. I wanted to leave a few moments if anybody has any questions. But I wanted to say thank you first. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. And thank you to the Friends of the Martin County Library for allowing me to come here and visit with all of you. Does anybody have any questions? I'd be happy to answer it. It's been a long life, a full life. And a pleasure to meet new friends now at my age. Thank you. I almost forgot. Talk about the different things that I did. See, I told you it was a long life, so many things. Amongst other things, I also I designed the flag of Miami Beach. That's right. I designed it with the gold for the golden sand and the blue waters and the palm tree. And in fact, here it is. This was when it was presented to me for our 35th anniversary of Miami Beach in 1950. I didn't even know about it. I had designed it a long time ago. Nothing ever happened. And then when the celebrations were about to start, the whole ceremony, out comes the mayor with the flag, the very flag that I had designed. He presented it to me, and I presented it to the city. It's there to this very day. Oh, as a matter of fact, I even gave the city of Miami Beach its motto. Do you know the motto of Miami Beach? Forward with caution. Still not such a bad idea. Oh, so many things I've done. Well, thank you. I almost forgot about all the different details. That's right. Oh, there it is. There's the key to the city that Mayor Dermer gave me. That's right. You see, the very one I'm holding in my pocket now. Oh, so many memories. And this is what happens. You become like a family, and there's nothing more important than that. Thank you. Did somebody say they had a question? Did the depression make any difference to my work? Oh, quite a bit. Remember I said what goes up must come down. We started a little early than the rest of the country. For most of the country, it was after the crash at 29, a terrible thing. But for us, it started earlier. Though I will tell you, it made a big difference. I also was in need. As I was helping of everybody, one of the things we had done, I remember I had bought property up in Fort Lauderdale. It was a very good property. There was a part of it was a post office and a little drugstore there. We had 10 offices and 10 little apartments, and right on the corner. It was a lovely lot. I went with my husband and I and a couple of partners, and the prices kept going up and up. I told you about the binder boys. They were selling here and there. At one point, my husband and I, we said we made a good profit. We wanted to sell, but the other partners, they said, no, it's going to go higher, it's going to go higher. Unfortunately, then the Depression hit. We lost everything. We tried so hard to keep it, but we lost that. We lost the royal apartments. We tried. But you never give up. It's like I said with a sick child. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm sorry, the child has a fever, I can't do anything. You're going to do and get everything you can to get that fever down. And so it made a big difference. And all the help that I had to give to people on Miami Beach, I have to tell you, even more people were coming. And people were going hungry. They had no places to live. It was really a very hard time. The Depression hit us hard, and it hit us earlier than other parts of the country. But again, I always felt I was very fortunate because somehow together, if we all work together, we can get through almost anything. Yes, ma'am. That the Cubans had not started coming that early. Well, there was a much bigger influx in early 1960s, right after of course, Fidel Castro took over. But there were always Cubans here. We went back and forth. Havana was a sister city. As a matter of fact, my very first trip was even earlier on in the 1920s. You see, as we were trying to build up Miami Beach, we wanted to start a newspaper there, the daily newspaper. I wanted to help along with that because I felt for Miami Beach to be important, we needed our own newspaper. And so I said I would help sell subscriptions. What I didn't realize is they were having a little contest, but they had to have enough people to buy subscriptions to make it worthwhile. The top prize was going to be a new car, a brand new car. Can you imagine? Well, I have to tell you, when people knew that I was selling subscriptions for it, everybody was buying. Carl Fisher had it on notice that if I should fall behind a little bit, he would buy a whole block of them, and Harvey Firestone and so many other, even FPNL. I have to tell you, I had a lot of help with it. So of course I won the contest. And one of the things was with the car, Harvey Firestone said there was one problem with it. It didn't have Firestone tires. He said next time I needed tires, it would get me new. There was another contest for the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce. Whoever had the most new subscribers to it, of course, the most new members, you could tell I won that one easily. And I won a trip to Cuba. That's right, early in the 20s. It was a lovely thing. I went with my sister Stella. And it was beautiful. We made friends that I stayed in touch with forever. So the Cubans, they went back and forth, but we didn't have as many that came to live here permanently till after, in the early 60s. After 1960, then so many of them came and had to start, like I did, to start new in a new country with a new language. But we did, and we built it up. Thank you for asking that. Any other questions? Okay. Yes? Well, when I think back, I think it would be still much the same things I would be doing. But I have to say, for me personally, my greatest contribution was probably fighting prejudice and anti-Semitism. You see, much of the time, until after World War II, there was still on all of those buildings. You know, as a Jew, the only place I could buy property was south of 5th Street. That's right. They now call it South Beach. And there were signs on the building, restricted. You remember restricted? Restricted meant there could be signs that said, no Jews, no coloreds, no dogs. Restricted. There was one sign I remember, one sign, always a view, never a Jew. That was a sign I remember seeing. And people, they would say to me, oh, Rosie, it's nothing personal. It's just business. Well, believe you me, it was personal, and I know business. But I've always believed that I've tried to do the right thing, to set the example of what a Jewish woman is really like, and change people's minds. And I really believe that it has made that big difference. Of all the things I have done, I got very active in B'nai B'rith and the Anti-Defamation League. And I think of all my contributions, of all the different things I have started and founded, I think that, to me personally, has been my biggest contribution. And though the overt vestiges of prejudice and anti-Semitism have been reduced, they are not gone. You still have to keep your eyes out. And it doesn't matter whether it's you they're attacking or your neighbor, because it could be you next. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for listening today.